yesterday's show and my life for the past couple of days, dominated by someone finally, the good news is someone finally is advancing the ball on the NFLPA collusion craziness. Bad news is someone's advancing the ball on it, which means a couple of things for me. And I'm not asking for your pity, but this is supposed to be the slow time. There is no slow time. Okay, let me tell you a secret. There's no slow time. And don't tell NBC, but they don't need to shut the show down for 6 weeks. It's funny because we were talking about coming back on the 21st, and my partner for 4 days a week, 2 days a week during football season. At some point, he's really not my partner anymore. During football season, he's just kind of part-time. But Chris said, what the hell are we going to talk about the week of the 21st? There's not going to be anything to talk about. Hey, Christopher, there's always something to talk about. And this NFLPA collusion situation where they file the grievance, they get a partial win, they generate some real evidence of actual collusion, they bury everything. The thing that really took it to a new level, the reporting that Lloyd Howell, the executive director of the NFLPA, has a side gig as a paid consultant with a private equity fund that just so happens to receive clearance from the NFL to be one of the few private equity funds that can buy minority interests in NFL franchises. It's ridiculous when you think about it, that this guy hasn't already been told to pack his stuff and leave. So what I noticed today, because there's a lot going on, and on top of what you're seeing at PFT and what you're hearing about from me here, my phone's blowing up with different people. And look, different people have different agendas. There are folks who simply want to share the information with me because they appreciate the work we're doing. They have access to information. That's good. Then there are people who see this as an opportunity to advance their own agendas. And I've made it clear to anyone that's trying to get me to get behind. Look, I'm not playing Game of Thrones here. I don't care at the end of the day who's in charge of the union. And I'm not going to align myself with someone and then have favors owed. No, I'm not playing that game. I care about the truth. I care about the players. I care about the players being properly represented. And my concern is they're not, because, and call me old, because I am, call my concepts outdated, but I keep coming back to the very simple proposition that Lloyd Howell is paid more than $3 million per year to be the executive director of the National Football League Players Association. That's a full-time job. It's full-time pay. Why does he even need to have a part-time job with a private equity fund? Why? I mean, why wasn't that a deal breaker from the get-go? Well, I'd like to take the job as executive director of one of the most important sports unions in America, but it's very important that I continue to do my part-time job with a private equity fund where I consult on defense and aerospace issues. Is that okay? The answer should have been no. And even if it was okay at the time, the moment that the Carlyle Group is authorized to join a very short list of private equity funds that are permitted to purchase minority interest in NFL franchises, that's the moment that Lloyd Howell needs to stand down. And it shouldn't be a matter of discussion and debate and consideration and vetting. He should have the moral compass, frankly, and I don't like to say that because everyone has their own decisions they have to make about how they're going to live their life, but I'd like to think that someone who is entrusted with running the most important sports union in America would know instinctively, I probably shouldn't do this. And I hate to give up the money. I hate to give up the spot. I like the work. I like the people. But at some point, you got to pick a lane. We said it about Tom Brady all year. He's got to pick a lane between being broadcaster at Fox and part owner of the Raiders. And as Miles Simmons put it so well last year, if Brady truly is committed to being the best he can be at everything he does, it's impossible to be the absolute best broadcaster and the absolute best owner. You can't do it. And of course, when you say that, you eventually have, I'm not going to go down that path, but I got called out. Like, it's not your business to, bullshit. Sorry, Alexa. It is my business to comment on the things I see and the things I have opinions about. So just as a practical matter, Lloyd Howell never should have been hired. until he gives up his side job or side jobs. And the moment the side job becomes a potential conflict of interest, that's when he should walk away. And this is all a precursor to me calling out The Athletic and the New York Times. I expect more from the New York Times. And I know that sounds like an insult, but it's also a compliment. Like, I've spent my whole life thinking the New York Times adheres to a certain standard. But what I saw today, and I'm sorry in advance to the people who wrote the story, to the people who edited the story, the people who thought this was an appropriate thing to post. I have no journalism training, so maybe I'm wrong. But the item that landed today felt like an effort to help the union circle the wagons around Lloyd Howell, because they granted anonymity to sources who are clearly pushing the pro-Howell agenda. And anytime I have someone who wants me to go with something where it's obvious the thing they want me to go with helps them in some way, I have a very simple position. If you don't go on the record, I'm not using it. I'm not going to give you anonymity for what feels like PR. The article posted by The Athletic / New York Times feels like pro-union PR. If you parse through the language, if you look at it carefully, it feels like something that they're doing as a favor to someone. And what makes it odd is they were asleep at the switch for 2.5 weeks on the whole collusion thing. So an outlet that was paying no attention to the fact that the NFL got a partial win, NFLPA got a partial win, and I guess the NFL did too. The NFLPA hid the decision for reasons we still don't understand. And now all of a sudden they show up with a piece that seems to be pro-Lloyd Howell. It's just weird. And I can't remember exactly what I said at the end of the story. It's just disappointing. At a time when our standards have been eroded, the New York Times is contributing to the legitimization and normalization of the idea that certain conflicts of interest are okay. Oh, the union decided it's not an actual conflict of interest. Well, so what? Because it is a conflict of interest. Because Lloyd Howell needs to be able to take that collusion ruling and beat the NFL over the head with it and become a problem, become an irritant, become a constant pain in the ass for the NFL and the commissioner. And the point I made today, because the final ruling was the arbitrator concluded that the NFL Management Council, with the blessing of the commissioner, urged teams to collude on guaranteed pay for players. Lloyd Howell should have had a press conference the day that thing came out, and he should have used all his rhetorical skills to argue for the commissioner to be fired. I'm not saying before you call anyone at NBC 345, I'm not saying that that is the proper outcome. I'm saying if Lloyd Howell is solely concerned about representing his players, that's a plausible way to proceed with this. Well, when you've got this side gig with a company that's on the short list of approved private equity funds to purchase a minority interest in NFL, you better tread lightly. I better exercise my discretion in a way that keeps that phone call from happening. You shouldn't have those on your radar screen if you're Lloyd Howell. You have one duty to the players, one obligation to zealously represent them. And because, one of his big arguments was, well, D. Smith wants to fight too much. He wants to litigate too much. I want to try to do deals. Hey, when the deal-making process, when it gets to the very end and you can't reach a deal, and the owners will shut down the sport for a season and the players won't miss a game check, you have an imbalance that you need to rectify elsewhere. It's all the more reason to sue. It's all the more reason to use PR. It's all the more reason to go after them any way you can, because when push comes to shove through traditional collective bargaining, they will shut down the sport and you won't, which means you will take the best offer they put on the table before they shut down the sport, which means you use anything and everything else you can to try to leverage them into giving you what you want. It's pretty simple. So I don't know what's going to happen. There was a time late yesterday afternoon, early evening, where it felt like the momentum was going toward Lloyd Howell being out and an interim executive director being named. As of this morning, my understanding is it's going to take a lot longer. Not a lot longer, but longer. It's not going to happen quickly. There is a procedure in the NFLPA Constitution for removing the executive director. It may come to that, it may not. The sense I get, and this is what's unfortunate, because this is a corollary to apathy being weaponized against the players. I said the league has been doing it for years, and union leadership, in my opinion, over the last 2 years has been doing it. The players don't care, and hey, if they don't care, let's take advantage of them. The cousin to that is knowing how to push the buttons of the players, that when there's an attack from the outside, you get them suspicious about whoever on the outside is saying something. There's a conspiracy out there. Somebody's up to something. It's us against them. We need to circle the ranks. We need to protect ourselves. They're criticizing you. By criticizing us, they're criticizing you. And it's a lot of stuff we see in the political world now. Oh, let's stick to sports. But I feel like that's part of this game. They've managed to neutralize, at least for now, the threat by getting key players on board with the idea that someone's up to something, that this isn't about anything we've done. Someone out there is up to something, and we can't let them succeed. And I'll tell you right now, and if you don't want to believe me, I really don't care. I care about the players. I care about the players being properly represented. As I said yesterday, I believe, and who the hell knows, it all melts together. If people are going to say, hey, you should be grateful to the NFL because you cover their sport and that's how you make your living. Well, I'm equally grateful to the players because they're the ones who go out there and play the game. They're the ones who put their bodies and their brains and their lives on the line. And somebody needs to be standing up for them because I believe, it's my opinion, their current union leadership isn't, by virtue of the simple fact that the executive director has a conflict of interest that he chooses to ignore and that player leadership at the NFLPA has chosen to allow to continue to exist. And for the average member of the rank and file, that is a significant disservice. Dan Wetzel has a great column at ESPN.com that I was reading before we got started today. Who's the NFLPA working for? Whose side are they on? I'm on the players' side as it relates to ensuring that they have proper representation, because I know the league is fine. The league is fine. They don't need help. You got a collection of oligarchs, and they know how to get what they want. There's an imbalance because, again, push comes to shove, they'll shut the sport down because they got the money to shut the sport down, and they're going to own the teams for years into the future. The players have a finite number of seasons they can play football. They're not going to give up a season to do it. The league knows it. The players need someone who will fight the league. And it may be David and Goliath, but they need a David. They need a David who isn't distracted. They need a David who isn't compromised. They need a David who doesn't have some backdoor dealings with the Philistines. And they don't have it right now. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.